Hi, everyone. It's Amanda here, your head chick, and Laura. And we are here because we are doing our weekly recaps. So, in these weekly recaps, we basically just talk about, whether it's like our thoughts or feelings around something specific that we were just interviewing someone about on our podcast this week. So, this week we had the pleasure of, or I had the pleasure of interviewing Jillian Michaels.
I think, let's be real here. You didn't have the pleasure. You had the experience of your life. You interviewed your guru, which is Jillian Michaels.
I know. Straight up, it was so nerve-wracking. And it's strange because it's one of those things where I'm like, I know a lot about her business side of things. I know a lot about her, from a fitness standpoint, what her philosophies are, her standpoint. I take her programs, I do her stuff, all that kind of thing. So it's not like I was going into it blind, or just my research. I feel like I really kind of understand a lot about her business and sort of her flow. But it was just the idea of actually talking to her and being having to ask her questions. I totally fangirled. At the very beginning of the interview, I actually said, I'm sorry, I am trying not to fangirl here, because it was one of those surreal moments where you're kind of oh my gosh, what do you do? What do you do when you're interviewing a person that you look up to from a fitness standpoint, from a business standpoint, in so many facets of your life? They have sort of somehow impacted you. So how do you talk to that person without being a weirdo?
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit happy that I was not on that interview, because I probably would have just been because I think what a lot of people don't realize is our original story of how we started Fit Chicks, when we were just the boot camp company. And even I remember clear as day, you and I sitting down on we had just decided to open the company, and we were we know exactly the type of workouts we want. We want them to be high intensity interval training. And we loved Jillian Michaels. She was our person who basically inspired us to go after our business, and is totally inspirational in all of our programming too. So it was to actually fast forward 9 years and you're talking to her, not just on audio, you're looking at her in the camera. I don't even know how you functioned.
I know. I wish I'm so happy that I was able to actually do it via video. But at the same time, I was if this was over the phone, I feel I would have been a little bit more calm. Leading up to it, I'm not going to lie, I was so nervous. And there's not a lot of things that make me really nervous. I get excited about things and I feel that energy of excitement a lot, but I don't have a lot of nervous energy about things, because I feel very confident in, in my skills and my abilities and my knowledge, etc. But in this particular scenario, I actually was I'm nervous. I'm going to throw up nervous. Oh my gosh, my stomach's turning and nodding, and I was sweating. I'm my hands are sweating. I'm sweating everywhere. I'm oh my God. Yeah, it was kind of intense. and then of course, because as luck would have it, I go to do this interview, and what happens? I can't hear her. I'm having technical difficulties. I know, right? I mean, this is okay, you have a 20-minute window to do this interview, and now you're having technical difficulties. And I tested everything. I tested it the night before. I tested it twice to make sure everything was good. And for some reason, it was just glitching out. Luckily, I was able to fix it. I was able to just be okay, what could this possibly be? And something similar has happened to me once before. So I figured that it was just my mic, and it was just not allowing me to get the sound. So I just pulled my mic out and was I'm just doing it without a mic, and we'll just have to deal with the sound quality. But luckily it fixed, and I still had enough time to get the interview done. But I was sweating bullets when I'm sitting there. Can you imagine you're sitting there, you're about to do this interview that you were so nervous about already, and then it's oh good, and now your sound's not working. Oh sweet, can this day get any better?
I think oh totally. But I think it's one of those things that for anyone who is, whether you're a business owner, you're a podcaster, you're a YouTuber, you're teaching a fitness class, how many times has it been? And that's one thing I love hearing, kind of the stories as well from our fitness nutrition experts as they're going through their first co-ops, because we've all been there where it's your music doesn't work. You forget 2 of the stations. You've got to regroup at the last minute. You're panicking in front of all these people, but it always works out in the end.
Yeah.
So you just always think it's it's so funny how many times that happens. But I also think it's crazy how how many people don't actually think that they could ever even talk to somebody like Jillian Michaels, you know? Like, and that's one thing I also think that's different in a sense that I've always loved and admired about you, is that you, even though you're fangirling, you're like, I'm just going to ask and see what happens. And then the universe makes it happen. You know what I mean? Like,
well, thank you. But yeah, no, I think it's, you and I talk about this a lot, and we say, like, you know, if you don't ask, the answer is no. If you do ask and they say no, the answer could be no. But you have to at least ask, right? Like, you have to ask, you have to go for the things that you want. And one of the things I've always wanted was to connect somehow to Jillian, not only to just be able to express to her, which I did at the end, like total like fangirl. I was like, I love you. I actually said those words. I was like, I love you. And I was like, oh my gosh. but it was honest. It was so true, because I genuinely love everything that she does. I love what she's doing for the industry. I love what she's doing, you know, to help millions of people around the world live better lives. Like, I love that about her. And I look up to her in so many ways for what she does. So it was fangirly, but it was totally at the same time, like, I meant it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like, it's one of those things, right? Like, I've always wanted to talk to her. I've always wanted to somehow connect to her. I was like, what's the worst that could happen? She says no. Or she says yes, and then I have to do it, and I'm like sweating. But you know,
I think one of the biggest things for all of us, for, like I was saying, for anyone, it's like we set these limitations and we stop ourselves before you even ask. And like you were saying, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So it's like, just throw it out there and see what happens. But then the other part of it is then you have to show up. Like, so many people, they end up getting the opportunities and then they don't show up at all. And like, I just think, because even with Jillian's business story of how she's gotten to where she is, and I know now she's launching that like super cool new app and everything, but it's like, she literally was like one person out of how many millions, and she just went for it, like went for this audition, and it just like catapulted her. And then she's taken her career and grown it in not just fitness into such a brand. And that's been
so impressive, I think, for sure. And also, I think just the way that she's been able to continuously transform her brand, you know what I mean? To like, so it's like, it's not just like, she's like, okay, I'm like known as like
the biggest loser coach.
Trainer, exactly. Or whatever. It's like, she's been able to evolve. She does like mindset, like speaking engagements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she, you know, she's got her hands involved in like nutrition stuff, and she's doing apps, and she's also doing like with Fit Fusion, where she's like helping other fitness professionals have a platform to sell and speak from, so that, because there's so many fitness professionals out there, but they don't know how to actually build the business side of it. And so she's helping them in that side. Like, so it's just like, there's so many different areas, and she's been able to grow it and transform herself along the way. Whereas a lot of times people just get really stuck. They get stuck in that one thing. And it's like, that's what I'm known for. I'm just known for this one thing. How do I evolve from it? How do I change? She's like the Madonna of fitness.
Exactly.
That's what I'm going to name her, the Madonna of fitness.
So, okay, what was your favorite part of the interview? We obviously, if you didn't listen to the interview, this is our like reconnect, because obviously I need to hear about it too. But if anyone listening or watching this missed the interview, we'll put the link below this video, so you can just click on it, check it out, share it, like it, give us some love. But what was your favorite part? What was your like?
My favorite part was probably when we were just talking about, like, we were talking in the beginning. I think that was probably my favorite part, was probably the very beginning, when she was just telling me about like how she manages her daily life, and sort of how she, like, what her 12-hour rule is, and that kind of thing. And just kind of getting really personal. And I think that the reason why, though, that was like my favorite sort of part, I think, is because that was the part that made me realize that, like, I didn't have to be so nervous. You know what I mean? Like, it was like from a personal internal sort of standpoint, that was my part, because it allowed for me to kind of feel like I was like, okay, like, she's human, she's normal, and she's like having a conversation with me. It felt like I was having a conversation with you. You know what I mean? Like, it felt that very like,
well, I thank you. And she's like Jillian.
No, and she's super funny, like, and she made it really easy, you know? And so that, I think, was probably my favorite part, was just like the ease and sort of that transition into the bigger conversation.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Super exciting.
Well, I don't know. I don't want you to give away what really you guys talked about. But I think the main thing that we want people to take away even from this conversation is you have to check out the interview with Jillian Michaels because she shares some amazing information.
Yeah.
And again, link is below. But also I think it just goes back to that whole thing of just like set your goals as high as you can.
Go big.
Think big and just ask for it. Go after it. Like there are so many times that we set our own limitations and we're really squashing our potential. And it's like, just put it out there. Say you want to be a millionaire. Say you want to help 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Even for us, when we started Fit Chicks Academy, we're like, we really want to help train other women. Like we want to train the trainers, essentially help women build their businesses, create the lives and the health and the bodies and their careers too that they absolutely love. And it was an idea in our heads. And then next thing you know, we just started taking action and making it happen. So now we have this incredible program, this incredible community. And I don't know, I hope that by you going after this interview, I hope it inspires somebody else to send that email that they're too nervous to hit send on.
Yeah, no, for sure. I completely agree with you. I hope that is a message that gets that's clearly sort of stated, is that if you want something, you have to go after it. It's not just going to be given to you majority of the time. You aren't just going to get that silver platter always, right? So if you want something, ask for it. And if you get a no, ask again, right? Reset, figure out what it is, and then ask again and keep going after everything that you want. Because when you put it down and you're like, okay, these are the things that I really want, you will achieve them if you're very clear about what those things are. I mean, even with our business, and this is just to wrap it up, my final thoughts on it is even with our business with Fit Chicks and with Fit Chicks Academy, every single thing that we have said that we wanted to achieve, every goal, every single thing we've written down, we have actually accomplished. And we're constantly evolving that and changing it and growing it so that we can hit new goals and go after new things. And so I think it's just really important that everybody, you think big and that you have that plan and sort of just don't be afraid. Fear is the only thing that's going to keep you back. So just get rid of it. Go for it.
Oh, completely. Yeah. I actually had, and this is my last thing before we wrap it up, I had a super awesome conversation with one of my gurus, but who's in person in Toronto. And she actually runs the Institute of Holistic Nutrition. And she was doing our kind of it was a meeting / graduation party kind of thing. And she was talking a lot about the mindset and the things that happened when she was opening up the school. And it started as, a very small idea, and it's now grown into, she's got 4 campuses and thousands of nutritionists who are helping thousands and thousands of hundreds of thousands of people. And, she was just talking about how she's like, I have already visualized all of you guys. You were already coming, you know what I mean? In my mind. So it's just going back to that, taking action, just going after what you want. Jillian Michaels did it. You've done it. I'm doing it, and I just really hope whoever's listening, this maybe inspires you to go after your Jillian Michaels.
Yes. And Jillian, in case you see this, thank you again.
Oh my God, Jillian. And I love you too. And I feel really bad that I wasn't there. But if you want to interview again, I'll totally interview you. Okay, everybody.
All right. Well, thanks so much for checking us out this week. And make sure you definitely check out the Jillian Michaels interview. Subscribe to our iTunes podcast so that you don't miss any week, because we have amazing upcoming interviews every single week. Chat soon. Bye.
Bye.